All right, welcome to Ms. Taylor's class notes for Algebra 1. Today we're going to talk about discrete data and how we can find domain and range of discrete data. So I'm going to do what I did last notes. Our domain is going to be blue. Our range is going to be green. It's just an easy visual to help us know and help us to remember. So our range, I picked the wrong color. We're going to go domain first. Domain is our X. It is our input. It is our independent variable. Our range is our Y. It is our output. It is our dependent variable. Y, as we learned last set of notes, is also the same thing as f of x. So anytime we see y, we also know that it's f of x. And so our discrete data is going to be points. It's going to be tables. It's going to be maps. And it's going to be lists. Basically, our discrete data is anything but lines. Lines are going to be continuous data. So when we talk about domain and range, there's a couple of things that we need to talk about first and foremost. First, we always go from least to greatest. Once we go least from greatest, we also need to, sorry, brain stopped working for 2 seconds. Why is it not working? I just did this 5 times today. So we're going from least to greatest. Oh, and we do not repeat numbers. So when we talk about domain and range, what we're talking about is we're talking about all possible values of x. That's what domain means, is every number that x could be in the data set that we have. Range means all possible values of y. And again, range is our y. Any number that range can be, or that y can be, is going to be part of our range. So what I'm automatically going to do is highlight all of my x values blue. And then I'm going to highlight all of my y values green. And so what we've been told is that we need to write our numbers from least to greatest. The first thing, though, that we need to do is we need to write it with a fancy bracket. We do not use parentheses for domain and range because we do not want them to get confused with points or other things in math. So least to greatest, so my smallest number is -5, so I'm going to cross it out once I write it down. It just makes it easier for my brain to remember. Then we go -3. Again, we don't repeat numbers, so even though there's 2 of them, I'm just going to write it once, then 0, and then finally 2. Again, I only write it once. I do not repeat them. But if we notice, because our 2's repeat and our 3's repeat, this is not a function. And so that is how we write our domain for discrete data. So now we're going to do the same thing with our range. So my smallest number is -5. Then we've got -3, then a 0, and then the rest of my numbers are 6. And that's all we do. We write them from least to greatest, and then we do not repeat numbers if they happen to repeat. So when we're talking about domain and range of points, the first thing I need to do is I need to figure out which is my x and which is my y. So if we remember, we write points as x, comma, y. So my domain, or my x, is always going to be that first number. My range, or my y, is always going to be the second number. The best thing I can recommend to students is always, when you see the word domain, write down x. When you see the word range, write down y. So now we need our fancy brackets, and we need to go least to greatest. So of my blue numbers, -2 is the smallest. I'm going to cross it out. Then 0, then 1, and then finally 6. Hey, those happen to be in order. That was really nice. Since we did not have any numbers that repeated, this is a function. So now we got to go to the y's. Usually the x's are going to be least to greatest order, the y's usually are not. So I don't have any negative numbers, so 0 is going to be my smallest number. Then we go 1, then 3 is smaller than 4, and those are all of our numbers, and that is our domain and our range. All right, so now we've got a graph. So the first thing we always want to do with a graph is we want to write down what our points are. So -3, 0, -2, 4, 0, -4 is this one, and then finally 3, 2 is that one right there. So domain is x. So I'm going to go highlight all of my x values. Range is y. So I'm going to go highlight all of my y values. What's really cool about a graph is least to greatest. So I can just follow the points. So we're going to go -3, we're going to go -2, we're going to go 0, and then we're going to go 3. -3, -2, 0, 3. All right, so range, same thing. Least is at the bottom, greatest is at the top. It's not going to let me write G or E. So I'm going to go from here to there, to there, to there. Range is Y. So we've got -4, 0, 2, and then finally 4. None of my x is repeated, so yes, this is a function. All right, so domain and range. Again, our domain is our x, our range is our y, or our f of x. Because remember, f of x and y are the same thing. Domain is x, domain is x. The really cool thing about maps is that they are always in the least to greatest, both x and y, or f of x. So -4, -1, 0, 2, and 7. As long as each number has an arrow or has a line, we're going to write it down. If for some reason a number did not have an arrow or did not have a line, we would not write that number down. Man, that fancy bracket is awful. So range in this case is f of x, which is the same thing as y. So -5, 0, 1, 2, and 4. All right, so I want you to do the rest of the last 4 of your notes, and I want you to check them with the completed class notes.